From the Toronto Star, I'm Sabah Itazaz, and this matters. As the West pulled out from Afghanistan with Taliban at the gates and Afghans falling out of planes in desperate bids to escape, a young girl stood crying at Kabul airport.
Help! I want to help mommy! Taliban coming home!
The latest Taliban takeover and the aftermath of a 20-year-long US-led invasion and abrupt departure is in the digital age, and we cannot look away. The previous Taliban rule during the 90s was a dark period, especially for Afghan women and minorities, and the years since have also not been easy. But Afghans helped rebuild their country painstakingly, and now they're terrified of what happens next. Despite the assertions of a new, different Taliban 2.0, reports already are flowing in of door-to-door searches, violence, restrictions. Women have featured a lot in conversations about Afghanistan. I wanted to talk with them, not about them. On This Matters today, I speak to two Afghan women on opposite ends of the world, and we try to process what's unfolding. In Kabul, due to electricity and internet outages and many women constantly switching locations to stay safe, we communicated through a series of voice notes. This is Nazneen, a young journalist. I have to hide her full name to protect her. I asked her how things have been since the Taliban came.
Taking Kabul by Taliban was predictable, but not so soon. And the life structure of women in society has changed since the Taliban came to Kabul. Deleting their photos from social media, staying at home, and restrict individual and social activities have stopped. But Afghan women don't give up. Exactly one day after the fall of Kabul, for the first time, two female journalists appeared on Kabul News TV without bringing change to their coverage. And this was a starting point for other women journalists under the power of Taliban. And the next day, on the third day of fall of the Kabul, 5 other female journalists and Tolo TV resumed their political debates and news reporting activities without changing their coverage. Zahra Rahimi and Hasiba Takpal, two Tolo TV's reporters, were the first girls that went among the Taliban around the road and prepared their reports. The image of these women caused a stir on social media and were welcomed by people, proving that these women are no longer the weak women of 2 decades ago and will not give up.
But we're also hearing reports of other journalists not being allowed to do their jobs, right?
From other side, Taliban didn't let a female journalist into the national TV of Afghanistan. Shabnam Dawran was journalist of national TV before coming Taliban. Yesterday, she published a video in social media that was saying when wanted to go in her office, Taliban told her only male journalists can continue their jobs here. So Mili TV is the national TV of Afghanistan. When Taliban doesn't accept appearance of female journalists on that TV, so it shows their all fake politics toward women. Meanwhile, the most of people considered on social media that for now, all policy of Taliban toward women are just like a slogan, forgetting the rest of international society to accept Taliban's government.
Taliban are now claiming to be respectful of the rights of women. Do you and friends you've spoken to believe that? Or are there fears that everything might be undone?
We don't know where are going the future of women because Taliban doesn't have a specific policy for women. Before the arrival of the Taliban, dozens of women had working in cultural and civic activities. How can we surrender under the unspecified policy when Afghan women still haven't yet achieved to their civic rights? 2 days ago, Zabiullah Mujahid, Taliban spokesman, in response to a female reporter, told that the Taliban's policy toward women is still unclear. He made it clear that women can work and be present in society, but in the Islamic way. But the framework of this Islamic law has not been determined yet.
It must have been hard to process everything. It unfolded so quickly.
Today we are the worst headline in the world, and this is the worst field that we can have. 12 people have been killed at Kabul airport and inside the Kabul since the Taliban came. Although Taliban have announced a general amnesty, saying there is no danger to government employees and journalists, but yesterday they didn't allow Shabnam Dauran to return to her duty. And from other side, they shared a lot of videos of Taliban violence across people on social media, like going to people's home and stealing of the girls, cutting hands of a man, killing of a girl in Nangarhar because of her coverage, beating of male journalists, killing 5 people in connection with the defense of the Afghan national flag in Nangarhar, whipping of a woman for riding in her sister's husband's motorcycle. Now some of these allegations are directed at the Taliban and some of them indirectly. But people prove that they don't give up. Yesterday in Kunar, Nangarhar and Khost, and today in Kabul, people demonstrated against the Taliban and raised the national flag of Afghanistan again. And they are standing and fighting for their rights.
That was Naz. Meanwhile, Yelda Server is in Toronto. She's been thinking about and singing about home.
We'll be right back.
शबहोए बेतराना नमाना नमाना.
Yelda is a student journalist and youth activist. She's among the many Afghans in the Canadian diaspora working to help those back home. Hi, Yelda. Thanks for speaking to me today.
Hi, Saba. Thanks for having me.
I know it's almost too simplistic to ask in the face of all that is happening back home, but I wanted to know, are you okay?
That's a very complicated question to answer these days. All I can say is myself and the community were just holding up. That's all I can say, but holding up, but barely.
And obviously, you have family and friends in Afghanistan. Can you tell me about them and others you've been in touch with? How have they been feeling?
Yeah, for sure. So I have one aunt back home and I have 2 uncles. The aunt is there with her children and her husband, and the uncles are there with their children and their wives. One of my uncles even has 2 grandchildren who've been orphaned recently because my cousin passed away due to COVID. And it's been difficult for everyone, to say the least. Difficult is it's perhaps not even the right word, because what the community and the entire country and every single Afghan around the world has felt by the return of the Taliban, their arrival, their comeback, triggers traumas of 20 plus years, which were frightening. Memories which are haunting. So everyone is numb. Everyone is shocked still to this day, where at this point, it's been a few days since they have now taken over essentially the entire country. And whoever I speak with, friends, family, network, fellow journalists, or locals in the community, activists in Afghanistan, across the country, even some government workers, a few soldiers that I know, everyone is just numb and shocked.
I can imagine it must have been so difficult. There's this burden on the diaspora, the displaced, of being here and having family over there and processing all the rapid changes that took place in just a few days. Did you expect any of this at all?
Well, no, the past 20 years, considering what happened in Afghanistan, a democratic republic, Islamic Republic of Afghanistan, but a democracy was founded 20 years ago. It wasn't perfect, nowhere near perfection, but it was on the verge of being a democratic nation. It was in the process of being a democratic nation. Sure, there was corruption and everything, but there was a foundation was built for a democratic nation. And so we had women going to universities. We had people opening up businesses, entrepreneurs. We had freedom. We had freedom of speech. We had freedom of, everything, religion. So expectations, no, it was nowhere near this, especially because the president, the foreign president, Ashraf Ghani, he made high promises. He made big promises and said, even in one interview, they asked him, if it comes to worse, will you run away? And he said, I'll never run away. The thing is, the history of Afghans, such a thing has never happened, or someone has fled the country. A leader of the nation has never fled. Afghans are known for our bravery. Afghans are known for resilience. Afghans are known for resistance. And this guy, the president, he proved to be something else. It's difficult to process. It's difficult to understand because Afghanistan is not a colonial nation. Afghanistan is a rich country with worth of thousands of years of history. So to think that something like this can happen, to betrayal of this magnitude, no one expected it. And now everyone despises him. So the fact that it has happened, everybody's shocked. That now we're just numb and we're trying to figure out what to do now. So it's been difficult, but what I've done on my end as being a part of a child of the diaspora is that I think back about, the days that I was back there. I didn't live too much of the war myself, but I did live enough of it to understand what the people are going through. So what I do is, I have friends that I speak to almost every day. And I have fellow journalists and activists around the country, girls and boys, everyone. And they tell me they're hopeless. And they tell me that they don't know what to look for. So what I do from my small place as a child of the diaspora is that I give them hope. What I do is I remind them of our roots. I tell them that Afghans are not meant to surrender. Afghans are not known. Surrendering and giving up is not in our DNA. So there's no way we're going to give up. And when I say that, an interesting story has also unfolded these days, actually a few days now, that the first vice president, Amrullah Saleh, has declared himself as the president placement. And he's also beginning to start this resistance army sort of in the north, in the province of Panjshir, a province that has never been captured, a province that is full of glory and all of those Afghan resilience that I was speaking about. Him and the son of Ahmad Shah Massoud, a former politician and also a former fighter, resilience or resistance fighter, the two of them and also some forces from the Afghan army, those who still believe in the getting back their nations, in the process of getting back the nation, and in the belief that we cannot give up and undo the achievements of the past 20 years. So those folks from every sector, whoever it is, they are starting to go to Panjshir and they're trying to join that resistance and that movement.
I mean, you mentioned fears, Yelda, and I'm also aware of these developments. And at the same time, a lot of Afghans have also expressed fears that, the civil wars and the conflict of the past could also be reignited. I want to ask you, because you've been talking to a lot of people as well, what are some of the fears that people are sharing with you with the coming of this new Taliban regime? What are they afraid of losing that might have been gained so painstakingly over the past few years through so much sacrifice?
I think a huge misconception in the West, especially, is that there's a civil war or a fear of civil war in Afghanistan. Let me clarify, as an Afghan, as a child of the diaspora, as someone who's invested her entire life in her motherland, in her home country. Not that Canada is not my second home, it sure is, but as someone who knows Afghanistan quite well in and out, I can tell you this is not a civil war. I can tell you the past 20 years was not a civil war. I can tell you that from now on, there definitely will not be a civil war. It's a proxy war imposed by the states, United States, America, Saudi Arabia, Iran, and Pakistan. So it's a civil war that these countries have brought into Afghanistan, because Afghanistan has trillions of resources that they can use, because Afghanistan is literally the heart of Asia. So the fears are that we're going to lose our history. We're going to lose our culture. We're going to lose the richness that Afghanistan has had, the resources that we've had, the freedom that we've built on the past 20 years. We might lose it, especially the achievements of the 20 years. Women, like I was saying, an entire nation of 38 million has been built these 20 years with so much pain, with so much hard work. Women and journalists now tell me, activists and everyone, they're saying these 20 years we fought to get an education, we fought to go outside, we fought to see movies, we fought to be able to go outside our homes, and now they're back to take it all from us. And that too, foreigners who have no religion, foreigners who have no identity, foreigners who are just vultures. The fears are that the Afghan identity will be vanished, God forbid. And this was symbolic and shown very clearly to the West, which and the world and the international community, unfortunately, doesn't see it, doesn't recognize it. They did this. They're playing nice right now. The Taliban are playing nice in the capital these days. But their real face was shown the moment they came to the capital and they replaced the Afghan flag in the presidential palace and in every corner of the country. I'm getting emotional because every single Afghan was traumatized by that picture. The flag of a nation is the country's identity. It's not just a piece of cloth. It's thousands of years of history. It's our identity. It's our everything. It's our heritage. And this group of nobodies comes out of nowhere or from specific countries, and they come to take over. They come to demolish us, and that is not right. That is literally colonization all over again, and it is 21st century, and that must not happen. There is no way that Afghans are going to let that happen, and the world must not let it happen too, because Afghanistan is not just any tiny country. Afghanistan, I will say it again, is the heart of Asia. If the world doesn't have a heart, if Asia doesn't have a heart, who else is going to survive?
And you mentioned Western perceptions, Yelda. What have you been observing? How has the media coverage, the social media conversation around what's going on, how's that made you feel? Do you feel that Afghans are being included in that conversation or other conversations whenever it comes to that part of the world?
This is a very frustrating subject to speak about, but I think it's past time we do. And thank you for the opportunity to be able to say it, because Saba, weeks leading to the fall of Afghanistan, which still sounds surreal to say out loud, weeks before it, months before it, and years before it, 20 years, every Afghan, even the government, even people from every sector of the Afghan society inside and outside the country said, listen, Western countries, listen, international community, this war is not ours. Listen and add us to the conversations. Listen to us and take care of the right problems in the right places. Afghans have been taken out of rooms on the tables where our destiny has been decided for us, unfortunately. I'll give you a huge example. The negotiation between Taliban and the states, the deal that was made. Why was that made behind doors? Why was the Afghan government not included right away? Because America has used Afghanistan. America used the Afghan government as a pawn. So right from before that, way before that, from 2001, we have been used as pawns. And even now, especially now, when the weeks and months leading to what happened now, the Afghan diaspora was really loud, extremely loud. We're talking about Afghanistan. We're posting, we're requesting everyone. We were pleading the world to listen, to do something, for the UN to make a move, for other countries to make diplomatic, conversations happen and include the Afghan government and the Afghan people. But nobody listened to us because apparently Afghan color, Afghan blood is less of a color or less of anything to the world. Afghan identity apparently matters less than the world. Why is that? We've also been asking these questions from ourselves a lot lately. But what I see now is that after this disaster happened, the world seems to care now. The world seems to realize, oh, Afghanistan exists. Oh, the atrocities exist. Oh, the war 20 years wasn't right. It's too late, but it's still not too late. The right people, the right problems can still be targeted in the right places. So we have been definitely gaslighted and ignored. And you can imagine from that airplane picture, from those pictures of the folks, the Afghans trying to lean onto that plane, what the situation is, what the fears are. If that doesn't explain it enough, I hope I can do it today with my words.
Thank you so much, Yelda, for your labor and for sharing all of this with me.
Thank you, Saba.
That was Yelda Server. She's part of an advocacy campaign called Canadian Campaign for Afghan Peace. You can take a look at that from the link in our show notes. And you can use the hashtag Canada for Afghanistan to help amplify their voices as well.
شب‌های بی‌قرارانه نمانه نمانه شب‌های بی‌قرارانه نمانه نمانه بی‌مهری زمانه نمانه نمانه دنیای بی‌مروت چی کرده که ذره ذره کابل شکسته